Right, hello everybody. Welcome this evening to one of our wonderful chats that we've got lined up. And I tell you what, I reckon that this is a really amazing one. This chat is entitled "The Making of a Trampoline Legend," and I tell you what, a legend we have absolutely got in the room. I'm not talking about Kieran Bad Boy Bardwaj. I am, of course, talking about our wonderful guest. Before we get going tonight, I've put together a cheeky little intro video, which I'm going to share with you right now. Wow. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I have to say, I don't know about you. Total disclosure, I've got to hold my hand up and say that I shed a tear or two while I was making that video. Now, of course, if you know me, you'll not be surprised by my being a weeper status, but you know, I really enjoyed putting that video together. I thought it was brilliant. The trampoline, tumbling, and DNT community is made up of an amazing kaleidoscope of people with an even bigger kaleidoscope of experiences under their belt. I don't think there's a single person that has the range of experiences that this person that we're meeting tonight does. From being the tip of the sword as both a domestic and international trampoline athlete to consistently delivering individuals to both British and World Championship glory. It's just amazing. I mean, the world talks about being an influencer on places like, Instagram and YouTube and places like that. But this woman epitomizes that label. From leading trampoline and DMT clubs in the southern region on behalf of British Gymnastics for over 30 years, to facilitating positive and meaningful change with generations of coaches through her role as the chair of the British Gymnastics Coach Education Panel. She has most definitely earned that influencer title. I'm not sure if she even knows what YouTube or Twitter is, or what an influencer is, but she definitely prefers to leave the digital savviness to someone else that's in her cohort. However, unlike her influencer counterparts, who can be found on these social media platforms, this great lady takes a huge step backwards, allowing others to enjoy the limelight. I tell you what, ladies and gents, it gives me great pleasure tonight to welcome one of the greatest individuals who makes up the technicolor tapestry of our amazing trampoline sporting community, Mrs. Biz Scales. Biz, you can turn your camera on now, my lovely.
Hello, everybody.
Hooray! There she is. Hooray, hooray, hooray. How was that, Biz? Did you enjoy that?
I did. One thing I would like to say, though, Lewis Bartlett came to me when he was 8. When he went off to Bournemouth to university, he used to come back home for training, but he trained with Olga for a year. And then he transferred to Olga Club, and he was an Olga member when he won the British Championships. But he's with us from when he was 8 till he was 19.
You see, ladies and gents, this is exactly what I mean. She's quite happy to go, no, nothing to do with me. It's everybody else. Everyone else is responsible, and that's just what she does. Bless you, Biz. Bless you, Biz. We'll talk a bit more about Lewis in a little while, if that's all right. Thank you for coming this evening. I'll tell you what, that's absolutely brilliant for you to join us. Everybody, if any one of you have got any questions that you would like to talk to the wonderful Biz about, please stick them in the chat box. I've got my chat window open and I'll monitor that so that you guys can ask her any questions yourself. So we'll get cracking. So Biz, if it's okay, I want to cast our mind back a couple of years to when you first got started in trampolining, if that's all right. I tell you what, that must have been such an exciting time, because trampolining as a sport, as a discipline, had really only been around for a relatively short period of time. Obviously, having been introduced by George Nissen only a few years previous to that, and you guys as people on the sort of national and international scene at that kind of time, you were reinventing the rules and making the sport what it is today. You were doing it all then as you saw fit. So where were you, how old were you, and what urged you to take those first tentative seat landings on this funny old new bit of rebound equipment that you'd found?
Right, I first got on a trampoline in 1964, and I was still at school and in Portsmouth, and the local authority had one trampoline, and they used to send it to each secondary school for them to try out to decide whether or not the school wanted to buy one. So I got on a trampoline at 13, and it's ruled my life ever since.
I think that last bit of that sentence can be attributed to the lives of many young people these days, and I have to say, myself included. Did you realise at the time, when your LEA's one trampoline, that it was shipping around to all of the schools in its authority, did you realise that those first clumsy few seat landings were marking the start of what was going to become the amazing career and lifelong career that it has?
Well, no, not really. I enjoyed it, of course, and we had the trampoline there for about a month, and we went every day. And when I'd learned to front and a back somersault, I thought I'd kind of cracked trampolining, and I wondered what else I would try. And then I discovered that you could never, ever do everything possible on a trampoline. It was an endless developmental activity. So you could never say, that's it, I've done it now, because you could always do more somersault, more twist, jump higher, and so on. So I enjoyed it, and then Bert Scales formed a Portsmouth Trampoline Club, and I was part of that. And I went to the first national championships in 1970, or might have been 69, 68, 69, something like that. And it was at Fox Gym. It was the Army PT Centre. And the set routine started with 1 and 3 half twist to stand. Okay, now during the warm-up, they announced that the 1 and 3 had to land on the back, not on the seat. So there were people there doing a 1 and 3 to seat drop, half twist to stand. So but people were just inventing it then. It was like weird stuff that nobody'd ever heard of, that people tried to work out how to do it.
I'm sitting here right now, just kind of going 1 and 3 to seat landing. That sounds like a dreadful thing.
Well, you might have known this name, Linda Ball, who was from Essex, who was a silver medalist at World Championships, was one of the ones doing it to seat.
Wow. Wow. Well, times have moved on, I think.
And this is well before sliding mats or Endex or anything like that.
Yeah, we saw in that intro video that, you know, no Endex, so there were just spotters, and sometimes, you know, very spotters included as a cursory assistance, you know, a cursory inclusion as far as the safety protocol was concerned.
Yeah,
and the frame pads just being this big and just about covering the frame, but not covering the springs.
Yeah, when I went to my first international, the spotters had to stand a metre back from the trampoline with their hands behind their back. So they weren't even like right up against the edge of the trampoline. They had to stand a metre back and take a run at catching you if you needed it.
So did you do any other sports while you were growing up? I mean, what was it about trampolining that kind of won your attention, as it were?
Well, I played netball. I played Hampshire netball, schoolgirl netball. I played in the rounders team. I just generally liked all sports. But when it got, and my school did educational gymnastics, not the formal gymnastics. I never did any of that, but I quite liked the trampolining. So I did, every day I did one of the sports that was going on.
Yeah.
But in the end, trampolining took, I mean, I did more trampolining outside of school than I did in school in the end.
It sounds like the fact that your school was offering trampolining and there's so much other stuff that your school was offering, that sounds amazing. School must have been a pretty influential part of your life. Tell me, if it's okay, can you tell me a little story about when you led the cardigan rebellion at your school?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. I suppose I'd only just started trampoline, about 13 or 14. And this was a strict girls' grammar school. So everybody had to wear a uniform and everybody wore the same uniform. So the teacher didn't wait until the whole class were there, and then the teacher would come into the class. So whilst we were waiting for the teacher, I said to the rest of the class, I'm going to cough at whatever time it was. And when I cough, everybody's got to take the cardigans off. So the teacher came in, we started the lesson, and then she set us this work, and it was absolutely silent. And I coughed, and 35 people took their cardigans off. And the teacher said, oh, open the window. Is it hot in here? Da, 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 da. And then 10 minutes later, I coughed again, and everybody put them back on again. That's how naughty I got at school. That was the limit of being naughty at school.
It's I don't think it's the right place for me to divulge some of the dreadful things that I got up to at school. So yeah, the cardigan rebellion sounds like a wonderful bit of innocent fun.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So you mentioned that you started bouncing in 1964, and of course that year being you know, a remarkable year, because that was when Portsmouth Trampoline Club was founded by the inimitable Mr. Bert Scales, the godfather of trampolining, who he's got a pretty familiar surname. I've heard that surname somewhere before. I mean, oh yeah, he was your husband. Of course he was. Husband of many years, who of course you met through trampolining. He didn't start off trampolining though, did he? He had a pretty interesting sporting career prior to being involved in this funny old bouncy world. What was that he got up to?
But himself, he played rugby, he played soccer, he was into bodybuilding very seriously. He coached an international to basketball level. He introduced Stan Wild, I don't know if you know that name, to in artistic gymnastics. He coached international volleyball players. So he was already into coaching all sorts of things. But he was asked to help introduce the trampolining. In fact, it might have been his idea that the authority bought a trampoline, because he was quite interested in doing it. But he wasn't very brave, himself, but he didn't mind being brave for other people. So he liked the coaching bit more than the performing bit.
I understand that he did a little bit of bodybuilding in previous years as well.
He did. He was Britain. He was third in Britain's best abdominals. I've got a picture upstairs of it. He was in good nick.
He was in good nick. He was a bit shiny. Did he ever sort of wander around the gym, sort of giving it this, here's my back, kind of poses?
Only with John Cahoon and Sean McLaughlin. Well, we had those, and they were really interested in physiques, of course. So yeah, he used to show them a few poses then.
That's wonderful. We had one of our previous interviews a couple of weeks ago was with Ian Ross.
All right.
Yeah, and of course the same kind of era as John Cahoon and Sean McLaughlin, and obviously Ian having being coached by Bert at various points in his career, often spoke about Bert busting out a bodybuilding pose every now and again in the gym and just making everybody have a really wonderful time laughing and all sorts. It was a wonderful training atmosphere, I believe.
Yeah, well, we enjoyed it.
History records that Bert was one of the founding members of the BTF. And if you don't know what that means, to those of you who are watching, the British Trampoline Federation, which obviously predates as far as the organising committee and all that kind of stuff is concerned. They were the precursor to British gymnastics. So the BTF was absorbed into British gymnastics in the year just prior to the year 2000, so that trampolining could be included in the Olympics. But yeah, so in 1963, him and a bunch of his esteemed colleagues, people like Rob Walker, Sid Aaron, Ted Blake, Pat Winkle, they all got together and decided, you know what, trampolining needs a voice. It needs an organisation. It needs to have something nationally organised.
Ollie, initially, trampolining was like an additional piece of apparatus in British gymnastics. So my first competitions, I was a member of BG.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my first two competitions, I was a member of BG. And then the BTF was formed because we didn't want to be an add-on to something else. We wanted it to be a sport in its own right.
That's funny. I didn't know that. So it's gone. So trampoline has gone from British gymnastics to the BTF, back to British gymnastics again.
I think to start with, it was the BTA, British Trampoline Association, and then we had to reform to become a limited company or something. There was some legal reason, and it was reformed as the BTF. What did
Bert and the rest of his cohort, all of those great trampoline aficionados, what did they all have to go through to get the BTF up off the, get it up into the air and if you'll excuse my trampoline pun, but get it going and make it gather momentum and make sure that everybody nationally was doing the right thing and How did they get that going? Did they get any problems going through that process?
Well, to start with, we adopted the Sports Council regions, and every region was asked to put on an open competition that anybody could go to. So all 9 regions ran an open, and we did a sort of travelling around the country going to their opens. When the founder members formed the Central Council, and at that meeting, people volunteered to do various jobs like competition coordinator, and Bert volunteered to do the proficiency award because he thought he could do that, and he filled the loft with proficiency badges and used to process proficiency awards. So everyone was given a job, and then once that got going and we had a reasonable number of entries, they looked at international representation and joining the International Trampoline Association, and then representative teams. But before then, we used to just have competitions, like we used to have a match against Germany every year. And there was 4 nations, Germany, France, Great Britain and Denmark. So there were, whereas now it's organised in World Cups and World Championships, European Championships. We only had World Championships every 2 years and Europeans every 2 years. So you only have one major championships in any 1 year.
What was it like being so close to a sport forming, you know, putting its foundations down, both nationally and internationally? What was it like being so close to the inner sanctum of the organization of people that were making that happen?
I'm not really sure that anybody was aware of what it was that was going on. We were just doing it because it was quite good fun and seemed like quite a good idea. And, you know, if you went abroad, you met other people who shared that. This was good fun. Look what we can do. Look how we can do it. How did you learn that? What is that he's doing? You know, all those things. And it was just fun. It wasn't the big business it is now.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me into my next question is, what do you think the similarities and differences are between British gymnastics and the BTF? You know, as I understand it, talking to so many people that were involved in the BTF during those early days, it was, and like you said, it was just so much fun. I mean, why was the BTF so successful? And what's the sort of differences and similarities between BTF and BG now?
I think when things were forming and it was early in the development of everybody and everything, people were willing to just do things to try it out and see if it worked. It wasn't big business. It wasn't the insurance problems that there are now. It wasn't the Olympics, I think, made a very big difference. I voted to close BTF and join British Gymnastics because I thought people should have the chance to being in the Olympics, which is the best accolade you can get. Although I do believe a World Championships is a better level, you know, organising of the rankings of people. The Olympics is, everybody knows what the Olympics is, and I voted that we should do that. But since that, it's become much more of a business structure and much less just do it for fun.
Yeah. Moving on a little bit then, how did it come to pass that you and Bert should meet and then of course fall in love and get married and share a wonderful life together? How did all that come about?
Well, I knew him because he was the coach and he started Portsmouth Trampoline Club. When I was 18, I went off to Dartford in Kent to train as a PE teacher, and I used to go up to Regent Street Polytechnic to train with Rob Walker, who's a good friend of Bert. And so I was away there for 3 years. Then I went back to Portsmouth and taught in Portsmouth. I taught in Portsmouth for 37 years. But when I first went back, I got involved in organising the Portsmouth Schools Trampoline Association. So we'd have inter-school competitions. And then I started to coach at Portsmouth Trampoline Club. And then, I don't know, I was 28 when we got married. So 7 years down the line, we decided that we're probably going to spend the rest of our lives doing this and probably we should make it formal.
Is it true that Bert once taught a chair to do a Barani?
I wasn't there when it happened, but I have every faith he could do it. He could teach a cardboard box to do a forward roll. He was the best teacher I have ever met. He would find ways to help people learn. And that's a real inspiration, that he was a person who could make people understand what they were trying to do and give them the confidence and courage to try and do it. So, yeah, I believe it.
I've had that story regaled to me, and yeah, I think having the teaching skills and the vernacular to be able to convince a chair or a cardboard box, you know, or anybody to be able to do something and inspire the confidence in them to have a go at that. I wish that I was as good as that. So
well, anybody can learn lead up stages. You can read them in a book. You can have them on a list beside the trampoline. But picking the right time to move along to the next progression, being able to help the performer understand what it is they're trying to do, giving them the confidence that it will work and the courage to try is what teaching is about. It's not just about knowing what the next lead up stage is.
Absolutely, absolutely, brilliant, brilliant. Let's talk a little bit about the accolades that you gained throughout your competitive career. You achieved the title of British champion back in 1971,
Yeah,
1972.
1971. Yeah.
1971. Like I say, the sands of time have eroded accurate records that are available online. I can find many minutes of many meetings that you've been present on, but I couldn't find what year you were British champion.
All right, okay. 1971. And the set routine started with piked 1 1/4 front, half twist to back pullover.
Hang on, even for me, say that again.
Piked 1 1/4 front, half twist to back, drop, back pullover. And you weren't allowed to see. It wasn't a Barani. You weren't allowed to be looking at the bed all the time. You had to go blind first.
That sounds great, but someone else can do that.
Nice, I enjoyed it.
How did it feel at the time? I mean, we've talked about trampolining still being relatively new and in the grand scheme of a sport and how a sport works and everything. But how did it feel being British champion, the best female in the country?
It was good. I'm pleased to have won it, and I'm very proud of the fact that I won it. But there was a lot of controversy about the whole competition because there was a lot of argument about whether people could see in this Barani to back or whether they couldn't see. Because if you could see, you got disqualified. So it was all a lot of controversy. But I fortunately didn't like doing it as a Barani to back. I liked doing it as a 1 1/4 front. So I was lucky. And I didn't get disqualified on the set. So I was there and I won. And you can only beat people that are there.
Whose responsibility was it to decide whether or not a disqualification in that event of seeing or not seeing was allowed? Was that down to the chair of judges?
The chair, yeah, the chair.
Wow, I bet that caused some interesting.
It did.
Conversations.
It did, because if you remember, you have to remember that at then having a video was quite, didn't happen very often. It had to be what people saw.
Wow.
At the time.
Wow. Amazing. You also represented Great Britain as part of the international team as well. Do you remember what competitions you competed for on behalf of Team GB?
I made the British team in 71 and I was in the British team until 78. I went to 4 Europeans that were only every 2 years and I made the final each time. Wow. But then you had 10 in the final. So it was sort of 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th position, not up in the medals.
Wow. What?
I'm pleased to say I made the final 4 times out of 4. And that was pretty good.
Can you remember what your voluntary routines were?
My most difficult vol was piked half in, piked half out, tucked double back, Barani, double full Rudy full, 2 and 3, Rudy ball out.
Wow. I tell you what, I'd be really interested to see something like that at a national level event these days. The TikTok of swing time that you see very often at national events is predictable the right word? It's very predictable, whereas that sounds really quite unpredictable. And I would imagine that everybody's routine when you were doing those kinds of competitions, everybody's routine was completely different and didn't follow a traditional pattern.
No, because you just made up things that you could do and then put them in a routine. And there wasn't a kind of structure on how to learn. Somebody said, oh, somebody did this 1 and 3 to back, and then you could do a ball out Barani after it. Oh, I'll have a go at that.
What a wonderful time. Wow. So your beloved Bert, he founded Portsmouth Trampoline Club as a not-for-profit club, back in 1964. You've already mentioned that. However, trampoline clubs then perhaps weren't what some of them are now, and the easy access to quality training facilities and quality equipment was often difficult to find. What was training like back then, and what was the equipment like? What sort of hurdles did you have to jump? Again, another one of my silly trampoline puns, sorry.
Okay, we were on a sheet bed, like South Sea beach bounters, seaside beach bounters. So sheet bed with elastic cables. And then they put steel springs on. I didn't like that very much. And then we went to an
there must have been an observable power difference between transitioning from bungees to springs. You must have felt that you were on the rocket.
Much firmer. And then we had 1 3/4 inch, and then inch, and then ½ inch, and then 6 by 6, then 6 by 4, then 4 by 4. So that's how it's gone. But we always try to keep our apparatus up to date with what people will meet at competition. So like I've got a very small club, and we have 2 4 by 4 ultimates, and that's what the kids train on, because that's what they're going to meet when they get to competitions. So we've always tried to maintain good apparatus.
I understand that while you were still training, Bert drove around in his car with a trampoline webbing and a set of trampoline springs in the back of his car, and every time you went to two of them,
we used to go to the Navy PT school in Portsmouth and strip 2 beds, change the springs, change the beds, train for an hour and a half, change it back and take it home. We used to do that 4 nights a week.
Oh my god. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. The logistics of having to do that every training session.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been a real pain in the backside.
Well, it's a remarkably good exercise. So like you didn't have to go to the gym afterwards. Like pulling 120 springs on each trampoline was quite good physical work.
Wow. It's I'm pleased that that trampoline clubs and trampolines have moved on, that we don't necessarily have to do that now to find quality equipment. And like you say, now at Portsmouth and many other clubs, you provide the same equipment that you get at national level events. So it's a much easier route to accessing the right stuff at the right time, I think now.
I must tell you this though, Ollie, we had an international match against Australia. And when they came, this was when Endex were quite new, they said, oh, you've got Endex. And we said yes. And they said, oh, we don't approve of those because we think it makes people reckless and they throw themselves off. Okay, so the compromise was that we had the competition, but we only had an end deck on one end.
What?
So there was just spotter at the other end, but end deck on one end because the Aussies didn't want it.
Wow. From my own trampoline experience, there were always those key moments in a routine where it was a make or break. Either it would go brilliantly, or I was off. So I suppose if that was your way of things, then you had to decide with only one end deck on. You had to decide which way round you were going to go.
Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. I just remember
that. Brilliant. Oh, that's amazing. Oh. Let's talk about your coaching career a little bit, if that's okay. You worked your way up through the coaching food chain, and now you are the proud owner of a shiny, sparkly IPC International Performance Coach qualification, which for those of you who perhaps don't know who are watching this, that's the highest level of qualification that you can attain within the sport of trampolining in Great Britain. So thanks to that, and of course, alongside the dedication of both yourself and other coaching and judging volunteers, including people at Portsmouth like Janet Payne and Linda T and Bert, of course. There's been a Portsmouth Trampoline Club representation at every British Championships since the very first one that was held in 1965. Is that true?
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. That for a club to boast that kind of standard for that kind of period of time, that's just amazing. There is no other.
We didn't have very big. We never had very big numbers. We've only had. I mean, the biggest our club has ever been is what it is now, which is 32, and 15 of those are at the satellite club that I never go to. So we've always been a very small club, but we've always had 1 or 2 who could make it through to a good level.
That's just a testament to the coaching ability of you guys that are involved in the club, and to be fair, your ability as a club leader and as a manager of people to make the cogs of progress turn efficiently enough to facilitate the support that's required to send an athlete to British Championships.
You're over egging it a bit, Ollie.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
Teaching, and I like people, and people want to learn. I'm very happy to teach them. And so if people come along and we try and make them as good as they possibly can be, and if they're only ever going to make a back and a front, well, we can develop that and try and get that a bit better. But those who want to and can go through to a better level. And I just like teaching people.
Well, I don't think that I can really over-egg this next person, because obviously one of the best students to come out of your gym was Sue Chalice, or Sue Shotton at the time, who she went on to claim 3 world titles, individual, synchro and team gold at the 1984 Worlds in Osaka in Japan. And then she also medaled at the 82 and 86 events in USA and Paris respectively, and she claimed a British title in 1995. I don't think I can over-egg that one. Come on, Biz.
Sue was first or second in the British Championships for something like 19 years, you know, her and Andy Holmes. They were either first or second. She has the most British titles.
Wow.
She was good.
And
do you know how she came to our club? It was a complete accident. Her dad was in the Navy, and he took her swimming at the Navy PT school, and this had a circular hallway. One door was into the swimming pool, one door was into the gym, and we had what we called a proficiency day, where anyone could come and do have some coaching and be tested on any of the proficiency badges. And we just used to do it as a Saturday event. And Sue went through the wrong door, and she saw the trampoline, and she asked if she could have a go. And we said no, because we haven't booked on. But if you do this, this and this, you can come to our club. And she came to my school actually to start with. And I talked to her parents and I said, I'm teaching my school team, but I've got 2 sixth formers who are quite prepared to take some middle school people. She was 8 at the time. And Jenny and Carol coached her, and they said to me at the end, whatever I say, she just does. And she said, we don't have to coach her very much. You just tell her what it is and she can just do it. She's really good. And then we brought her into the club and went from there. And she was clearly a talented person as soon as we got her.
Am I right in saying that initially you two trained alongside each other, with her as an 8-year-old and you at the top end? So
23, 24, yeah.
Your career was, in full swing and starting to come to a close as far as being a gymnast was concerned, and hers was just getting started. But you were both bouncing at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow. Then, of course, you retired from being an athlete, and you joined Bert in the coaching and the running of Portsmouth Trampoline Club, and a formidable coaching duo was born. Did you know that Sue was going to be world champion that first day that she walked in through the gym door? I mean, was that a surprise to you looking back now, or did you always have a pegged for stardom?
Well, we both knew that she was a talented person, but she was 8. And, you don't know how people are going to grow. You don't know whether they'll change their mind, whether they find something more interesting. She was interested in gymnastics as well. So she could easily have been, well, she probably couldn't have been a gymnast because she turned out to be 5'7", which is pretty tall for an international trampolinist. But you don't know. You just know that there's talent there. But she just kept learning. And I have to say, Bert and me were both in Osaka when Sue won. And both of us said we were so relieved that she had finally achieved what we knew she was capable of, but didn't know, because like little errors are tiny that make such a big difference. It can change the outcome of a competition. And she made it. And we're really pleased that she could finally have something that said, this is your potential. You are world champion.
My next question is probably on the tip of the tongue for every aspiring trampoline coach. or indeed, to a high level, or even a recreational trampoline coach, because you obviously know the answer. What is the recipe for developing a champion? What is the basis of the scales approach to trampolining? Because I tell you what, if you could just encapsulate that in the next sort of 30 seconds, I'll be well happy.
That's quite a big ask. I think I'm very proud of our beginners. Our kids that go to a regional competition and do their routine, I'm just as proud of them as I was of Sue, because it's about whether or not you're doing what you can do on the day at the time. It's a now or never, do or die. Can you do it? And so whatever level, it's always that. If you're, I don't know how to say this really. We didn't ever set off to have a world champion. We wouldn't have minded if she hadn't won, because we had so much pleasure watching her learn. So I think you've got to work out what it is you're doing it for. I just like teaching people and watching them get better. And if they go on to be world champion, that's fantastic. If they go on to achieve over and above their potential and they're doing backs and baranis, I'm just as happy.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's a wonderful mentality, and I suspect there's far more involved in actually how the execution of it happens. But I think we all have to maybe form an orderly queue to come and watch you at your club, and we'll start taking lots of notes.
Oh, we don't have haters.
So despite Portsmouth, only having a really small gymnast cohort. I mean, you said that you've got 16 or so that's in the main hub of the club at the moment. It's produced high flyers consistently for decades. 30 British titles, over 15 international caps for the club. People like Sean McLaughlin and John Cahoon. They were men's British synchro champions in 1995. We saw in your intro video Hiroi Takuma, who was a Japanese international that trained with you for a really long time and did really well on the university scene. She dominated the booster championships for a long time. Most recently, you decried responsibility, but very much you paved the way for the young Lewis Bartlett to achieve his dream of becoming British champion and becoming a senior international for Great Britain. Obviously, finishing his career in Olga. How does it feel knowing that you've had such a positive impact on so many people's lives, and who have they've achieved what they've aspired to achieve?
I don't know how to answer that question really. I met somebody before we had this COVID. I met somebody when I was out at lunch in a pub, and a person came up to me who I didn't really recognise. She's, I suppose, mid-40s, and she said, "Hello, you're Miss Scales, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "You changed my life," and that really knocked me back. And she wasn't a trampolinist. I was a teacher in a school. I was a head of year, and I taught PE and I taught sociology. And whatever it was I said to her changed her life. And that really knocked me back, that sometimes you say things because you think they're true, and they have an overwhelming effect on people, which is why sometimes you've got to think about what you say and when you say it and how you say it.
It's funny that you should mention about changing people's lives and the impact that you have on young people. Actually, I've got a little message here from one of those people.
Oh, right.
And I'm going to share that with you now.
Hey Biz, I hope you're well and staying safe in these crazy times. I just want to say a massive thank you for how inspirational you have been throughout my trampolining career to date. Over the past 15 plus years now, not only have you shown your support, but your patience towards my progression, and also the fundamentals that you have taught me that I built my career on. From the first British Championships and making my first British final, you were with me throughout the whole journey, and I can't thank you enough. Even in some of the harder times when I was probably a bit of a challenge through the teenage years, let's not mention Cardiff, I think you have helped shape the person that I am today in my personal life, but also in my competitive sporting life still. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say that working with you has been an absolute pleasure whilst I was in the sport, and what you have taught me and what you continue to teach others is inspirational and incredible. So thank you again for everything that you've done for me throughout my career, and also hope to see you soon.
Oh, wow, that's really nice. Good old Lewis.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I did. That was really nice. He's in Switzerland, isn't he? He's in Switzerland.
Yes, at the moment, yes. He's because he's running around the world doing all of his running and all of that kind of stuff. But there's all his events are all being called off left, right, and centre, so he's not really sure what to do at the moment. Well, he said not to mention it, but what happened in Cardiff?
Oh, he did the wrong. He did a missing element in his set, and it was my fault.
I beg your pardon.
He had a missing element in his set routine, and that was my fault.
Uh-oh.
And he came running across, and he said, "They're only marking me out of 9 because I've got a missing element." I said, "No, you haven't. No, you haven't." And then Donna Grist came across and said, "Oh, he didn't have whatever it was." Oh no.
That's happened to me once before, and you're absolutely right. That I didn't have the right element in the routine, and I only realised it when the gymnast was sitting on the trampoline waiting to start their routine.
Oh wow! Well, you did well. You remembered in time. I wasn't even on the bed. He was competing at the other end of the gym.
Oh goodness, I dashed to the side of the trampoline because I wasn't immediately spotting the trampoline. So I dashed to the side of the trampoline and went, "Change the routine. It needs to be this, and this." And they were like, "Oh, okay." And
yeah, but bad for Lewis. I think I'm right in saying this. He had to have a double in his set, and he was using a half out in his vol for the first time. So it wasn't as if he couldn't do it, but we just hadn't put it in the set. He got a mega score for his vol, so we found something good to say after it. Wasn't all bad. He did a mega vol.
Oh, brilliant.
Lewis.
You've also got a pretty illustrious suit lapel sticker in the form of an FIG International Brevet Judge badge. How many national and international level competitions do you think you've judged at over the years?
Oh, I've no idea. I'd started judging in international judging at youth matches and stuff at about 72, 73. And I judged internationally until, I don't know, it must have been just after the Olympics. So I've no idea, Ollie, lots.
I mean, how does one go about becoming a brevet judge? Because I mean, they just give those badges out like, you know, sweets. Right?
Well, it's a happy accident, really. When initially, when you took a team abroad, somebody had to judge. So you took 2 or 3 coaches, and one of you had to volunteer to judge. So I got quite a lot of experience judging because somebody had to do it. And then the first exam I did was national judge. So they were all the levels, but the first exam I did was national judge, and then international judge, where you have to do set, execution, synchro, difficulty, and so on. So I just did the exams because I quite like judging. And someone's got to do it. You can't have a competition if you don't judge.
Okay, so here's an interesting question. What do you think's more fun, being an athlete, being a coach, or being a judge?
I don't know. I like doing all of them. I'm never going to put on a leotard again. So performing is out.
Ah, dang it, Biz. Come on, the vets. I'm sure the vets is coming up. I'm sure we can make it work. You do it, I'll do it, yeah?
Will tell you one very thing that I remember most. My first international I went to, there were some Russians there, and we had 2 days training before the competition. And these Russian girls brought the same leotard to every session and jumped in it every session. So by the time they came to compete in it, it was pretty high. We thought that was terrible.
That's a very polite way of putting it.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I have to come in that leotard. Don't stand too close to them in the queue. I mean, now people take 3 or 4 training leotards, 3 or 4 competition leotards. They only wear things for 10 minutes and change it. Not then. You had your one leotard, you took it with you, you trained it and you competed in it. We actually had 2, one for training and one for competing.
Here's an interesting question then. So having been involved in the sport for a really long time, with all of that experience under your belt, if you were in charge of world trampolining up at the FIG, what changes to the rules would you make, if any?
Oh, I'd go back to cumulative score, definitely. Cumulative score. If you want to know who's best, they've got to be able to do it in every routine.
Yeah.
Whereas now you often get people who are good as a one-off, and it's a blast in the final because it's a 0 start and everyone's in with a shout. I would go back to cumulative score, definitely.
Okay.
I don't see that ever happening because it takes it away from the media have really hijacked sport. Sport wasn't invented for people to watch. Sport was invented for participants. But now the watchers are more important than the performers. So they have to modify the competition to make it better for the audience. I kind of think that's a bit of the wrong way around. I'm a purist. I just like trampolining at its best.
I like trampolining too. Hold my hand up. Okay, I've had a couple of people say that they've got questions for you. So I'm going to invite Harriet. If you want to unmute yourself, my lovely, then the floor is yours. Go for it.
Hello, hi Biz, it's nice
Hello.
to meet you. Yes, I have a couple of questions. So firstly, do you think the sport has gotten harder or easier?
Definitely harder. You can jump higher, so you've got to be physically stronger. It's further to fall.
That's true.
When I won the British in 71, I did something like a 5-9 difficulty.
Wow.
That wouldn't put me in the under 11 regional team now. So things have got a lot more difficult.
Even though the trampolines have gotten softer?
Pardon?
Even though the trampolines are more powerful?
Well, power is only good if you can control it. And I don't know whether you know this, but they thickened the frame pads quite considerably because 4x4 beds are so unstable, people go on the frames quite a lot. So, you know, the very fact that they've done that tells you that a 4x4 bed is more powerful but more unstable, and you've got to be able to control that.
Okay.
So no, definitely harder.
We just judged at the V Tramp and had a 16 tariff to do, which was challenging to say the least.
All right, yeah.
That was fun.
Was that in the men's open?
That was the Synchro Open.
All right, okay. Because I judged in that and some of our kids competed in that. It was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Canadians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting competition. I don't know whether you felt this. Our club is now based in a church. So we've got stained glass windows and we've got Jesus on a cross up in the roof. And we ran a competition for our kids. And I said to them, it's not going to be like a competition because like when you go to compete, you're in like a proper sports hall and everything. But actually, when we had the competition, the kids' hands got sweaty. They got really nervous. And it was just like a competition, except you'd no idea what your opposition were doing.
Yeah.
So you didn't know how you think, but it was like a competition. And we did warm up and then competing, and I was really surprised how competition like it was.
Okay.
I think it'd be really good to have Trampolining in a church because he'd be a really good spotter because Jesus saves.
Well, when you land on your back, you have to kick up at the cross, which is up there in the rafters.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Thanks very much. One more question, Harriet, if that's all right. One more question.
So what would your recommendation be for someone who wants to start coaching, maybe eventually become a tutor for coach courses, wants to get their national or brevet judge qualification? What is the best thing that they can do to get them there?
Oh, that's difficult. Get involved. Do a lot of coaching. Make sure that when you're doing your coaching, you don't skip anything. You've got to have every little tiny bit right, because if you get all the bits right, when you put it together, it works. So you can't skip things. Help young people have mastery of the trampoline, which means you don't teach them this skill because it's in the routine. You teach them about how to manage the trampoline, and they ought to be able to do 1.5 twisting swivel hips, not because it's never in a competition routine, but it's good for their awareness. And things like 1.5 twisting swivel hips, corkscrew, cat twist, turntable, it gives them all real mastery and understanding of the trampoline. And if you can give them that, then they will lead you. I remember John Cahoon once said to us, he did his half in, half out, and he said, I've come out so early, I've probably got time to Rudy it down. And the coaching was, go on then, we'll put the mat in. He knew, because he understood how he'd learnt it. He understood when to do the twist because he knew it from everything else he'd done. And he knew how far round 1.5 twist was, and he could just do it. And if you put in all the right ingredients, then your performers will lead you in their learning. If you want to be a tutor, you need to learn how to teach. And teaching isn't just about teaching a performer. You've got to help people understand the theory behind what you're doing so that they can work out the words to teach somebody else. So that tutoring is slightly different from coaching a performer. And international brevet for judging, you've got to get on the ladder and you've got to get all your competitions done, and you have to be very lucky to get to the point where, I mean, I was an international judge for a long time, but when it came to 2 brevets ago, Great Britain were only allowed 8, and I wasn't one of the 8, and so that was the end of my international career because we had other young people coming up. I don't mind that, I'm not complaining, but there's an element of luck in getting to international brevet judge. But
brilliant.
if COVID ever stops and we get back to competition, get in and get experience judging.
A brilliant set of answers, Biz. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your questions, Harriet. Wonderful, wonderful. I've got a funny story, a funny moment from your trampoline coaching history, if I can recount this to you, Biz. I mean, I have to say, I've had it recapped to me just for the benefit of this interview from someone a bit closer. But having said that, as a gymnast on the circuit, I remember this story, and it flew around the circuit at the time. You know, Biz Scales' folklore was absolutely, you know, the gossip of the moment, as it were. So yeah, the grapevine in trampolining is absolutely alive and kicking. So Janet Payne, who is obviously one of your longtime friends and one of the coaches at Portsmouth Trampoline Club, her son Adam was attending a session at the Navy PTI school, HMS Temeraire. Yeah, you know where I'm going now, don't you?
I do.
And he accidentally fell off the side of the trampoline, you know, as you do. It just happens. Sadly, however, he absolutely walloped you in the head during his spectacular dismount and knocked
in the
you
face.
Spark out. You were absolutely out on the floor. And as I understand it, you were the only coach in the room because all the gymnasts that were training, they were all over 18. So there was no, needing 2 adults in the room and all that kind of stuff for children. So yeah, that was fine. But you were the only you were the only adult in the room, and so they're all kind of stood over you like this, going, "Oh my God, we've killed her! We've killed Biz!" Ah! And so yeah, it was crazy. So Adam called his parents and Janet and Nigel, and was like, "I've killed her! Help!" So they came running and they got you the medical help that you needed and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, apparently you were out cold for about 24 hours.
And overnight in hospital, but I had his foot mark on my face. And apparently it's a bore. I don't remember it. I never did recall what happened. I just woke up in hospital, and I worked out where I was and where I'd been and who would have been there, but I didn't remember any of it. But apparently it was only a ball out Barani. It wasn't even anything very spectacular. Like if he was doing his first trip, it would have been, wouldn't it? But it was a ball out Barani, and he came off the side and whacked me in the face, knocked me out.
So the finish to this story is that, you know, you woke up, you know, you kind of came to and worked out what was going on and all that kind of stuff. Now normally when, you know, you've been admitted to hospital, you've been admitted to hospital for a reason, you know, and it's good to, you know, sit back and let people come and look after you and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But am I right in saying that you, you know, you had a bit of something to eat, had a shower, got yourself dressed, and then off you toddled to the school round the corner where you were scheduled to deliver a trampolining assessment?
I was assessing, yeah, right, yeah.
So you discharged yourself from hospital and went and did an assessment straight away after being knocked out? Yeah,
my car was still at the PT school. So I rang Linda T, and she came and got me and took me to the school so I could do my assessments. Yeah.
Now, surely that's going above and beyond, isn't it?
They all passed.
I can't really see very much, but I think you're doing really well. Pass.
No, I was all right. I was knocked out. That's all. I was all right.
Oh, amazing. I think I think I would have stayed in the hospital bed and allowed someone else to take the strain on that day.
But in 1981, I had a brain hemorrhage. I don't know if you know this. I had a brain hemorrhage in 1981.
Have you got a copy of my script? That's my next question.
Oh right, go on then.
Go on, keep going. Go on, you do it.
All right, and that was just there wasn't anything caused it. But there was quite a thing going around that the trampolining I'd done had caused it. But it wasn't anything to do with trampolining. It was just an artery just burst for like having a puncture in a tire and in a tube. Wow. And I had to stop trampolining then for 3 months. I wasn't allowed in the gym or anything. I really missed it.
Oh. I don't know about you, but I'm sure that you're the same. Whenever I can't get on a trampoline, I get very depressed. Yeah, like this COVID period has got me properly depressed because I've not been able to get on my lovely trampolines.
Yeah. After I came out of hospital, I had to go to the doctor, and I went to the doctor, and he said, "I don't know what to say to you because I've never met anyone who's survived a brain hemorrhage." And then I thought, oh, it's probably quite serious, really.
And you've got a metal plate in your head. I bet that makes flying fun.
Yeah, and my brain is certified. Bert always said I was the only person he knew who had a certified brain. They welded it back together.
So Portsmouth Trampoline Club continues to go from strength to strength in its 57th year. 57 years. I mean, I tell you what, that makes Axis Trampoline and Gymnastics Club, you know, measly 16 years of existence kind of pale into insignificance.
Yeah. I have to say, we're not going from strength to strength. I finished teaching 13 years ago, and now I just keep in touch with it. I'm there 6 hours a week. You don't get very good in 6 hours a week, but I have lots of people that I enjoy teaching. And I don't know whether I don't put in enough time to have people at very high level anymore, but I'm thoroughly enjoying what I do. And we get a good number of kids in regional teams. I don't know that we'll have a national performer again. But if we get somebody who looks like they can go that way, I will find time to give them more time. But just now, just 6 hours a week is all I do.
So in 2015, you moved into your current venue, and you mentioned earlier on that it's a church, St Saviour's Church in Portsea. Yep. Obviously, a really unique gymnastics facility. In the fact that
10 meters ceiling height.
that's enviable.
Yeah.
but it is a living, breathing community church. You know, it runs services and you know, has a community pastoral outreach and all of that kind of stuff. How do you guys work it? Because I'm right in thinking you have to set the pews aside
Monday,
to fit the trampolines in and all that kind of stuff.
Monday, and we clear the chairs from the main body of the hall. We put out our 2 trampolines. Then we have training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Have Wednesday night off. Fridays they have funerals. Saturdays they have weddings. Sundays they have services. And then we have our gym back on Monday.
Have you, and you have to put the trampolines out and away every session?
No, we just put them out on Monday, put them away Thursday night, and then they have their church back for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then we put our tramps out on Monday.
Okay, so it's not quite so bad as having to respring and despring 2 trampolines every session 4 nights a week.
We've moved on.
It's still putting up trampolines though. I mean, 57 years of putting up trampolines, that must have got a bit boring by now.
Well, they keep changing them, don't they? So now the legs aren't quite the same. I had trouble with those new legs.
The ultimate 4 legs are pretty stiff. Yeah. Okay, so Biz, we're moving towards the tail end of our chat now, very sadly, and I told you it was going to take longer than that. I knew it was. We've got to discuss your role as a coach, educator, and a general facilitator of trampolining within your region and beyond. So you've been the chair of the Southern Gymnastics Technical Committee for the past 30 plus years or so, you know, a post which you currently hold, and both you and Bert were heavily involved in the region prior to you taking on post. You chaired the Coach Ed panel, the Coach Education panel in 2017 on behalf of British Gymnastics after assuming that role from Bert when he sadly passed in 2007.
Kathy Page was head of Coach Education before me.
Okay, and she took it from Bert.
Yeah.
Okay, and that panel was a select panel of coaches that's designed to guide the cutting edge thinking and actions of British trampoline coaches nationally. Indeed, I served on that panel with you for a number of years.
Yeah, you did. Thank you for your efforts.
I tell you what, I was always awed while I was, you know, had the privilege of being involved in that special group, of how you managed the responsibility of the post and balance the requirements of the discipline against the demands that were placed on you at the time by British Gymnastics, and then various other department heads of British Gymnastics and different disciplines and people like that. But you always kept a really balanced and a common sense approach to finding solutions to problems. I was always so impressed by that. What is it about the governance of trampolining that keeps you coming back for more, and for you investing your time in so many different areas of the sport?
Well, I chair the Southern Trampolining, and I also chair British Gymnastics Southern Region, so cross disciplines. Chairing meetings is quite easy. You just sit there and organise who speaks when. So that's fairly straightforward. But I'm not a creative person, you know, but I'm quite good at doing what's decided. So if people decide this is what we want, then I'm quite good at implementing that. But as I say, I'm not really very creative. I just wait until people come up with good ideas and then work out how we can implement them. I volunteered for the Coach Ed panel after Bert died and I stopped teaching. I thought, well, now I've got a bit of time. I tutored at all levels, apart from HPC. Bert always did the HPC ones. And I thought I had something to offer in terms of developing the the coaching system. I interviewed all the IPC people in 2012 with a view to restructuring the coaching award scheme, which is yet to come into fruition. Everything I'd volunteered we should do and suggested. We now have a level 4, don't we? And level 4 and level 5. So we've got a PC and an HPC. But things like the British Gymnastics development moves slowly. And so we had lots of good ideas. I mean, you did quite a lot of stuff on the general gym that was going to have a trampoline component. and you did a lot of work on that. We worked hard at getting it all ready for the deadlines, and then for various reasons it didn't get implemented. But I quite enjoy doing that. No, this is the system. This is what we want. How do we get there? I quite enjoy doing that. Although with succession planning, I have said that Linda T, who's treasurer of Southern Region, we're only doing it for 2 more years, and then we're stepping down. Southern Trampolining, I don't know. Getting volunteers these days is quite difficult. When I was a teacher, if you didn't volunteer, it didn't happen. So teachers came in and volunteered to do things, whereas that doesn't seem to happen anymore.
You're right. I think the definitely more hands in the air when there's jobs going is definitely what needs to happen a bit more these days.
Well, people want to be paid for everything now because it's a business. You know,
Yeah.
just volunteering for free. I mean, I've coached since 1971. When I first came as a teacher in Portsmouth, they said if I didn't take a coaching fee, I could have the school sports hall 2 nights a week for training. So that was the deal. We got the sports hall free, so but I couldn't get paid, and so I've never ever been paid for any of my coaching for the whole of my life ever.
Wow.
So I just do it because I like doing it. It's fun.
That's amazing to be so involved in the sport, but never to be able to say those words. That's amazing. Well done.
Mind you, though, with the current climate, listening to other people who are running businesses and how difficult it is, I am so glad I didn't get paid. We're Janet and me are just volunteers. We don't get paid. It costs us to do our trampolining, but everyone pays for their hobby, don't they? So seems fair to me.
You were recognised in 2017 at the BG National Awards by being, I have to say, a very worthy recipient of the Education Award, an award that recognises an organisation or an individual who has played a crucial role in providing excellence in the delivery of coach ed. And I have to say, looking at the nominees, you know, you bested a pretty worthy list of people to take the trophy that night. How did gaining that award, you know, in recognition for all of your work and the services to the education community within trampolining, how did that make you feel?
Well, I'm terrified actually, and I'll tell you why. Because I'd had quite a lot of disputes with BG over the development of the coaching staff and all sorts of things. And when I went, I was invited to go to the dinner, and I never wear heels, but I put heels on, and I thought, well, I'm not going to win it, so it's not a problem. I'm not going to have to walk anywhere. I just sit at my table. And then I won it, and I had to go up these 3 or 4 steps, and I spent all my time thinking, please don't fall down the steps. Get down carefully, all in one piece. Don't fall over. So when I finally sat down, I was so relieved that I hadn't embarrassed myself by falling over in my heel. My heels are about 1.5 inches. We're not talking about 5 or 6 inch heels, you know, but I was so worried. But all night I hadn't worried about it because I thought, I've argued with too many people at BG, I won't get it. So I was quite casual about it all. And then suddenly it was me. So
presumably you'd had a couple of glasses of wine at that point as well.
Yes, I had. I have to confess.
Oh dear. I'm just about to draw to the end of the chat, ladies and gents. So if anyone's got any final questions, stick them in the chat window now. That would be brilliant. Have you written any books, Biz? Have you written any books? Or if you haven't written any books, are there any books about trampolining or education within sport that you'd recommend people read?
But Burton Lee wrote a book on the introduction of teaching trampolining, and we used to use it for our courses back in the days where you didn't have BG manuals and stuff, and we just put it as part of the course fee. So we always talked about maybe writing a book, but we never got round to it. We had lots of bits and pieces. But I'm very proud of the book that we wrote about developing trampolining. It was never published. We just used it as course notes.
That was about to be my question. Is it published?
No.
Have you ever considered taking it to a publisher?
Not really.
Doing a Jack Kelly with it?
No.
Well, I'll leave that seed in your head.
It won't grow. It won't grow, Ollie. You know, it's trampolining has moved on, and they don't do it. They don't see it in the way I see it anymore. So I don't know how relevant it would be to the current coaches.
Well, I think you'd be surprised, my lovely. I really do.
I'll send you a copy. I'll send you a copy, Ollie.
Done. Deal. I'll take you up on that because I think there's definitely an appetite for the scales kind of approach to trampolining. You know, how do you teach trampolining from someone who loves trampolining? Come on, I think that's an opinion or a set of opinions and a set of guidelines that is worth hearing. So, well, I'll leave that seed with you. All right.
I'll dig it out. I'm sure I've got a copy somewhere or other.
Finally for me, what happens next? This is my last question. What happens next? It would appear that, you know, the amazing Biz Scales has put put a definitive tick in every box associated in trampolining at all levels. So is there anything else that you want to achieve in the sport? You know, or is there about to be a switch to downhill skiing, which I know you love too?
Yeah, I enjoyed my skiing. Well, I have master gymnast, master coach, distinguished judge, and the coach education award. So I kind of think I've not looking for anything else. I'm 71 this August, and I didn't think in my mind, I couldn't think about what it would be like not trampolining all of the time. But what this lockdown has taught me is that I'm perfectly happy at home. And I miss it, and I miss it a lot. But if I couldn't do it anymore, it wouldn't spoil my life. So I don't know. I've got to stop doing it eventually, haven't I? Eventually, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Eventually.
I don't know when that will.
Just not too soon, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not planning to back out anytime soon.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Happy about that. Wonderful, wonderful. Just looking at the chat window, there's definitely a little bit of appetite for another copy of that book, Biz. There you go. You've got 2 buyers straight away. Boom.
Okay, I'll see what I can find.
Excellent. I'll take you up on that. Wonderful, Biz. You'll be pleased to know that we have reached the end of our interview. I tell you what, I've really enjoyed that chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to me this evening, and for sharing so openly all of your experiences and your thoughts and opinions. It's been a real privilege to have this opportunity to talk to you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It wasn't as onerous as I thought it might be, and I've actually thoroughly enjoyed remembering things that I'd forgotten. So thank you for that too.
Well, you're
good luck with all the trampolining, all the rest of your club people there too.
Wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this brilliant chat. I do indeed hope that you've enjoyed it, and let's all hope that we can aspire to achieve the lofty heights of success that this amazing lady has. So in the meantime, I give you Mrs. Biz Scales.
Woo! Thank you very much.
Thank you, Biz, and thank you, Ollie. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Take it steady. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and we will see you all again soon. Ciao, ciao.